We are going to cover the new hooks functionality that's arrived in React 16.8. So if you're not already familiar with hooks, it's just an easy way that you can use state and other React features without writing a class. So a simple way to demonstrate this would really just be to use the useState hook. And what useState hook allows you to do is you import it from React, and then inside of your application, you can just set a getter and setter method for some particular state. So if we just have a count here and we have a set count as the setter, and then we just use state and we set the default count to 0. And this 0 is just the initial value. It doesn't have to belong here. It could belong somewhere else that's passed down to your app. So for example, we could destructure that from the app itself when it is mounted, and then we could pass in that initial state, and that's how that would work. So if we, inside of our application, just show the count, you'll see that the initial count is 0. But now if we go ahead and create a button that when we click it will increase that count, what we can do is we can then just place on the page a button that does that. It calls a function that calls the setter method with the initial count plus 1, and then we can press that button and it will increase the count. And that is how the useState hook works with React. Now, people aren't just going to be using this for counters. This is also useful if you wish to have some sort of form field. And if you've used React forms before, then you will be familiar with having to set the state when you update a field entry. So let's give this a try and see what this looks like. So if we, again, just call the getter and setter methods for useState, and we'll set an initial value to be null. Down here, let's just place a horizontal rule, and then we will have an input type, and we'll give this text input type. And then we say on change, we will get from the event that happens, we will go ahead and grab the target's value. Then inside of here, we will do set text to be value, and then we'll close that out. So then when we type in here, that's going to be updating the state. And again, let's just place that state above so we can see exactly what that state is. And there we have it. So this is fairly common if you've been using React before and you've had to use the good old component method where you've had to create a class to set state. And typically you would write something like this, and then you would have state equals text to be whichever you like. An initial count could be this props dot initial count, or you would set some default, and then inside of your method you may have things like on change, and then inside of here that would take the event where this would be the target and a value of that event. That's just not really required. And then typically you would call set state, you would set the value or the text to be the value. That's just no longer required in React 16.8. We can make use of this new useState. There are other hooks that come out of the box with React, and we'll be covering those in another video, but this is just a quick tour on how you can get started with React hooks and useState.